Hi, hello, welcome to Narayana IAS. This is Karthik Boni. I'm here for Daily News Analysis for 8th February 2024. For today's session, I have picked up 5 important articles. The first article is from Hindu, page number 7. Over 20,000 FCRA licenses cancelled, and most of the cases are from Tamil Nadu. So, in this article, we are going to discuss how the foreign contributions to the civil society is regulated in India. And also, we are going to discuss about the legislative provisions. And moving forward, we are going to discuss another article from Hindu, page number 7, Roadmap of Fiscal Consolidation. So, in this article, we are going to discuss the recent fiscal policy trends and also the associated significance of having such policy. And third article is also from Hindu, page number 6, Equity Concerns Banning Fossil Fuel Extraction. Yes, as of now, in the COP28, we committed for transitioning away from the fossil fuels. But we are facing some challenges. There are some issues before international community to transitioning away from the fossil fuels. So those things we are going to discuss in this article. Moving forward, fourth article is taken from Indian Express, page number 6, Taking Cancer On. So in this article, we are going to discuss one therapy, that is CAR-T cell therapy. So we are going to discuss the basic facts and conceptual ideas behind this cancer treatment therapy. And finally, we are going to discuss an article from Hindu, page number 12, CDS urge industries to work on counter space capabilities. So here we are going to discuss the government initiatives which are taken for increasing these defense related startups. So especially here we are going to concentrate on schemes related to the defense related startups. And finally, we are going to discuss 5 prelims practice questions and 1 mains practice question. So please watch the video till the end. First, we have an article related to the foreign contribution regulation to the civil society. We already have an legislation called Foreign Contribution Regulation Act 1976. So exam point of view, this topic is very important. So we have to know about the act and its provisions, and also we have to know about the challenges and issues when it comes to the implementation of this law. So this applicability part is very important for the examination. We also had a previous year question in 2015 related to the implementation of the law. Examine critically the recent changes in the ruling government's foreign funding of NGOs under Foreign Contributions Regulations Act. So we can also expect some similar questions in the upcoming examination. That is possible. That's why we are discussing this article. Coming to the context, recently the CBI initiated a case against human rights activist Harsh Mandar, and his NGO is also subject to the investigation, that is Center for Equity Studies. It is not one such instance. There are many occasions. The NGOs such as Center for Policy Research, World Vision India, and Oxfam India, and recently the News Click NGOs are subject to investigation. So from this context, we have to know about the provisions, and also we have to know about the reason or challenges and issues in implementing this law. So coming to the provisions, so it is enacted in 1976. The aim is to regulate the foreign contributions, individuals, and also the associations. There are some provisions. So NGOs have to register themselves with the legislation, and also they have to open the accounts in the specific branch, that is State Bank of India, Delhi, to receive the foreign contributions, and also they have to utilize the fund received from the foreign contributions only for those specific purposes, right? So next we have to know about the eligible criteria for the registration. So it will be granted only to the NGOs who are having or who are performing some initiatives, programs in the field of culture, economy, education, religion, and society. So only those NGOs can receive, or only those individuals can receive foreign contributions, and it should not be a fictitious or benami company, and also it should not be prosecuted or convicted for indulging in the activities of conversion, religious conversion, and the validity is 5 years, and after the expiration of the validity, they have to renew within the 6 months from the date of expiration, and cancellation is also possible before the expiration. Like cancellation of the license is also possible if the agency found that there is a false statement was mentioned in the account, then they can cancel the license. And during the investigation, the Ministry of Home Affairs can suspend the NGO's registration for 180 days. Right? Once the license is cancelled, then they have to wait for 3 years for reapplying for the license. So 3 years buffer period or cooling off period is there for the reapplication for the license. This is another provision. So now we have to know about what constitute foreign contribution. It refers to the donations, yes, amount, transfer of money, deliverables, transfer of goods, and transfer. The word transfer here means the assigning property, physical property to the NGOs. So donations, deliveries, and transfers. But when it comes to the delivery of goods, there is some exemptions, like if there is the value of the goods are less than some specific sum, then those deliveries of goods will not be accounted as a foreign contribution, right? And it does not include commercial transaction. So that is very important. And also the contributions made by the citizens of India. If any contributions made to the NGO by the NRI, so Indians is a citizen who is working from foreign country, who is in abroad, if they are sending money to the NGO, then it won't be considered as foreign contributions. But if an Indian acquired the foreign citizenship, then they are sending money, then it will be considered as foreign contributions. And there is a limit. So it has to be in between 1 lakh to 10 lakh rupees. It is mentioned in FCRA 2022 rules. And there are some exceptions. The persons or organization involved in the election, politics, and media are excluded from getting contributions from the foreign, right? So candidates for the election, if someone is willing to contest in the election, then those people are excluded from getting funds from the foreign. And media professionals and media organization, entire media organization, news media or audio visual media, everyone, and also all the professionals comes under the exclusion list. And also judiciary and government personnels also excluded from getting foreign contributions, and legislative members, MPs and MLAs are excluded, and political entities, the political parties and their office bearers, and organizations of political nature specified by the government. So the organizations and individuals who are related to politics, media are excluded from getting the support from the foreign. So this is regarding the exclusion. So now we have to know about the critical analysis about this implementation of the law. So there are some concerns. The first aspect is political use and selective enforcement. So there are instances this act was used against individuals and organizations to silence the dissent against government. And also it was selectively used against some certain political affiliations, the individuals and NGOs which are having the certain political affiliations, right? So in this aspect, the rule of law is getting affected. So this is the first set problem. And second aspect, ambiguities in the definitions, political activities, the public interest. So those words are open-ended, and there are chances, and it is creating avenues for the misuse of such provisions against the persons or organizations who are raising dissent against governments. And also, there is a lack of clarity in the regulations. So guidelines to support such open-ended definitions are not there. In this aspect, the lack of clarity is creating avenues of misinterpretation and misuse. So this is the second dimension I want to highlight. And third aspect, arbitrary cancellation. in recent case also, there is a lack of basis for the cancellation of the license. The transparency was not there. The reason for the cancellation of the license was not communicated properly. So this is another problem. And finally, the procedural point of view, it needs the registration. In order to get the license, the procedure itself complex in nature. So next we have an article related to the fiscal consolidation, a roadmap for fiscal consolidation, right? Exam point of view, it is very important because it talks about the fiscal policy. So fiscal policy is nothing but government intervention to influence the economy. Yes, government is intervening through the government expenditure, use of government expenditure, through taxation measures. So in this aspect, government is intervening or influencing the economy. This is what we call it as fiscal policy, right? So exam point of view, it is very important. So in this article, we are going to discuss about the significant trends which is there in the recent budget, and also we are going to discuss about the consequent impacts, consequent significance because of this particular trend. Previous year, we had few questions on this regard. In 2019, there was a question related to the public expenditure management, the challenges in public expenditure management. And in 2013, another question related to the FRBM Act and its features and its effectiveness. Yes, both the questions, some are other way, it is related to the fiscal policy. So we can also expect similar questions in the upcoming examination as well. So that's why we are discussing this topic. So coming to the context, recently the interim budget was presented on February 1, 2024. Yes, interim budget for 2024-25 was presented by the finance minister. But in the budget, there are some notable features. First thing is the capital expenditure. The government committed to increase the capital expenditure, and also the government also committed to reduce the fiscal deficit. These two are some of the welcome steps taken by the government. So from this context, we have to know about the actual numbers, and also we have to know about the significance of having such interventions. So in the physical trends, I'm going to discuss in two different aspects. One is the revenue performance of the previous year. Especially, I'm going to talk about the tax revenue performance of 2023-24. And after that, I'm going to discuss about the government's commitment on capital expenditure and fiscal deficit for the upcoming year, right? So with respect to the tax revenue performance, the tax buoyancy is 1.09. It is a very good sign, which means the tax revenue collection is very good. So when compared to the growth in GDP, the growth in tax collection is performing good. So this is the idea. So here it is creating the scope for the union government to spend more or to take some effective measures to reduce the deficit, right? It is creating a room to take some proactive measures, right? So here in the upcoming year's commitment, union governments increase the growth rate in the capital expenditure. So it is 16.9% when compared to the previous year, and also it committed to reduce the fiscal deficit. So previously it is 5.8% previous year. Now the government wanted to reduce it to 5.1%. Yes, it is a very good sign. So because of these trends, there are some significant impacts to the economy. So coming to the significance, the first and foremost aspect is to navigate the Indian economy from the pandemic uncertainties by stimulating the economic activity. Yes, the capital expenditure increases the investment in the economy. So in this aspect, the confidence of the private player will get increased. The demand for goods and supplies will also be increased. In this aspect, the economic cycle will also be like moving in a productive aspect. In this aspect, we can bring the economy out of the economic slowdown created because of the COVID pandemic. So this is the first dimension and first significance of having or increasing the capital expenditure. Second dimension, enhancing the investors' confidence. So here we are looking for the fiscal consolidation. We want to reduce the fiscal deficit. In this aspect, it ensures the stability and predictability in the economy, because uncertainties because of changing the taxation and uncertainties because of the change in the interest rates will not be there. So in this aspect, the confidence, it will increases the confidence of the investors. So in this aspect, the private sector participation will also be more. So thus it will contribute to the economic growth. And third important aspect, the consequent impact in state spending. States are relying more on the finance from the center for its development needs. So increasing the capital expenditure will increases the availability of funds for the states. So in this aspect, it can contribute, it can work on infrastructure development, and also it can work for the key priorities in the states. So thus it will reduce the regional imbalance. So this is the third dimension. The fourth aspect is accommodative monetary stance. So here, reducing the government spending will create the space for the RBI to work on the monetary policy. So in this aspect, the monetary policy, there will not be much change in the interest rate to accommodate the inflationary pressure. So in this aspect, the access to the fund at the nominal interest rate will be possible. So investments will be there, right? So this is the fourth dimension. And finally, job creation and income generation. So increase in the capital expenditure will act as a multiplier effect. So it will create jobs, because if you are investing more on infrastructure, job creation will be there, and consequent income generation will also be there. So that the spending capacity will also increase. In this aspect, demand for the goods and services will also be increased. Hence, the overall, the cycle of the economy will move towards the growth. So these are some of the significant areas which we have to highlight because of the current trends in the fiscal policy. Next, we have an article related to the climate change. So exam point of view, it is very important. So equity concerns in banning fossil fuel extraction. So it is very important. We have to think from the perspective of climate change commitments. So global nations are committing to reduce the impact of climate change. So we are taking some, we committed to take some efforts to reduce the impact, but we are also facing some practical difficulties in implementing those strategies. So we have to know about the practical difficulties, and also we have to find up the alternative solution, that how we are going to overcome that problem. So exam point of view, these two areas are very important. Right? We also had some question in the previous year. In 2022, there was a question related to the control measures taken by the Kyoto Protocol. So there is a possibility that we can also express some questions related to the control measures to reduce the impact of climate change, to reduce the impact of greenhouse gases, right? So that's why we are discussing this topic. Coming to the context, so global nations had a consensus in the COP28, which was concluded in Dubai, to transitioning away from the fossil fuels. So we want to reduce the dependence or reliance on fossil fuels in the near future. That was the commitment. A road map for this transition was approved in the recent COP28. The first commitment was made in COP26 in 2021 in Glasgow Summit. In that summit, we committed to phase down the unabated coal for the power production in the power sector, and also we wanted to remove the irrational subsidies that are given to the fossil fuels. So we are taking some measures to reduce the fossil fuels, because fossil fuel is one of the important area we have to work to reduce the greenhouse gas emission, to reduce the impact of climate change. But there is a problem, the inadequate response from the governments and corporations. So here we are assuming that there are some practical challenges and difficulty. So those things we have to understood. So from this context, we have to understand the practical challenges, and also we have to come up with the solutions. Moving ahead, so we have to know about the climate change principles first. There are some principles which we are following, adhering when it comes to the climate change interventions. So first and foremost aspect, and that the one which is very important for the developing nations, is common but differentiated responsibilities and respective capabilities. Yes, it advocated that every nation is having the common responsibility, that is nothing but addressing the climate change problem. It is a common responsibility, and also it is putting forward the differentiated responsibilities, which means the nations who emitted more in the historical past and the nations which is having the capacity have to take more responsibility. So this is the first and most important climate change related principle. And second aspect is precautionary principle. So this principle advocates that even though the scientific evidence for the potential environmental harm because of the climate change is uncertain, the global nations have to take precautionary efforts. Yes, uncertainty is there. Even scientific community is not able to come up with the proper possible harm, environmental harm. Amidst all those situations, we have to take efforts. This is the second principle. Third principle is equity and justice. So burden and benefits has to be shared in an equitable manner. And also most importantly, so we have to advocate to reduce the impact of climate change on vulnerable communities, because they are more vulnerable, they are not able to come out of those challenges. So global nations have to support to ensure the justice. So this is the third principle. And fourth principle is polluters pay principle. If any government or if any nation or if any corporation is polluting, then mitigation measures and rehabilitation measures has to be taken care by the polluter, and also they have to bring those nations and corporations into the accountable mechanism. This is related to the polluters pay principle and intergenerational equity. When it comes to the distribution of resources, distribution of environmental problems, it should be fair. We have to consider the demands and needs of the future generation as well. So this is what we call it as intergenerational equity. And finally, sustainable development. So sustainable development is nothing but convergence of aspirations, convergence of environmental aspiration, convergence of economic aspiration, convergence of social aspirations. The aspirations have to converge for the long-term well-being of a society, right? So these are some of the important climate change related principles. So exam point of view, we have to know about these principles. We can code these principles to justify our actions, right? So now we have to know about some of the details related to the production gap report, right? So we have to know that there is a gap or inadequacy in taking efforts. So production gap report, so it is a report first launched in 2019. Prelims point of view, we have to know about the year. So 2019, it was launched in 2019 to track the discrepancies, differences between the government's planned fossil fuel production and global production levels consistent with the limiting warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius or 2 degrees Celsius. Whether the commitment made by the nations are inconsistent with the aspirations of climate change commitment. So this report will track all those things. So from the 2023 report, it is found that the fossil fuel producing nations intended to increase the production. So they wanted to increase the production to 110% by 2030, which means there is a difference. The commitment for the climate change is to reduce the fossil fuel, but here the trend is going against it. They wanted to increase 100%, more than 100% by 2030. So this is the difference. Even it is not inadequate, it is going against the direction. That we have to know, right? So this is with respect to the production gap report. So we have to use this points to justify our answers. So now we have to know about the issues in fossil fuel transitioning. So here we are going to relate with the principles, common but differentiated responsibilities, and global commons and due diligence principles, right? So here I want to highlight the Kyoto Protocol, the commitment in the Kyoto Protocol. So Kyoto Protocol is one such example which implemented the common but differentiated responsibilities. In the Kyoto Protocol, the commitment was differentiated into two things: Annexure 1 countries' commitment and responsibilities for the Annexure 1 countries, and the responsibilities for the Annexure 2 countries. So it adhered to the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities. But now, in transitioning away from the fossil fuels, this principle was not considered effectively. So the divergence of capacities in the economic structures, which means some nations are relying more on fossil fuels for the revenue, depending more on economic development, and also most number of sections are working in this particular fossil fuel sector. So which means there is a divergence of capacities in the economic structure. So some countries relying more on fossil fuels, some countries is having very less reliance on fossil fuels. For example, countries like Congo, Nigeria, they are relying more on fossil fuel for revenue. But whereas the case of United States, Australia, Japan, they diversified their economy and their reliance of revenue on fossil fuels are comparatively low, right? The capacities, there is a complete divergence in the capacities between the nations, right? So this divergence created the dichotomy, differences in the expectations. Some of them are expecting that no, we don't want to commit on fossil fuels, and some other nations wanted to commit to reduce or phase down or phase out the fossil fuels. So there is a difference and dichotomy in the expectations. This creates a problem, right? And second aspect, extrication by considering the principles of global commons and due diligence. So global commons, this principles advocates that right to use natural resources. The state, the nation is having the right to use its own natural resources. Yes, I'm having a coal, I can use the natural resources for the economic development. But one conditionality is there. There is an obligation not to cause significant harm to the other country. Yes, this principle is possible, but the problem is that how we are going to account the impact in that transboundary nature. So this becomes a problem. So implementation point of view, we are having some practical challenges like this. So these are some of the issues related to the principles, right? So now we have to know about the India's perspective. Yes, it is evident that India is relying more on fossil fuels. Look at the map. Around 56.23% of the total power capacity, we are relying on the coal. More than 50% it is coming from the coal. So still we are relying more on the fossil fuels, which means it is a problem for India to shift towards cleaner fuel is very difficult. And second aspect, social necessities, around 3.6 million jobs in coal mining and the power sector. So social aspirations is also there. So immediate transition is not possible, which means we want to find a livelihood option for all those 3.6 million people. So it is very difficult for India, right? And what India is aspiring is that India want to look for differential time frames. So no common commitment in relation to the time. So for developing nations, we can get for more time. For that, India have to pursue with the global nations. So India have to have collaboration with the like-minded people to pursue its aspirations in the global arena. So what we have to do is So we need an equitable solution, right? Yes, we need solution first of all, because the problem of climate change is very evident, and also the impact is very high, and that too the impact is more on developing countries. So equitable solution has to be found, and the commitment for the climate change related intervention should be there, right? But while taking these solutions, we have to respect the diverse capacities and challenges faced by the developing nations, right? And here we have to have a delicate balance in having a legal obligations, economic realities, and also developmental priorities. We need solution, but we have to consider the diverse positions of the different countries, so that we have to arrive a common formula by considering the obligations, considering the realities, and considering the developmental priorities, right? And for that, we have to engage in a meaningful discussion, and we have to find a collaboration and consensus to implement this on priority. So next we are going to discuss an article related to the India's indigenously developed cancer therapy. So as of now, we are relying more on chemotherapy or radiation techniques or surgery to cure cancer. But the recent innovation introduced the new immunotherapy to treat cancer. So this is the article. So exam point of view, it is very important. We have to know about the concepts and basic details behind CAR T-cell therapy in the cancer treatment. We also had a previous year question in 2019 related to the RNA interference technology. This RNA interference technology is related to gene technology. Whenever we are getting information or current affairs topics related to gene editing or gene technology, we have to pay attention. This CAR T-cell therapy is also related to gene technology. So that's why we are discussing this topic, because UPSC keep on asking such questions in the examination. Coming to the context, recently a 64-year-old patient became the first patient in the country to be free from cancer cells after being administered by CAR T-cell therapy. The person got cured from cancer because of this therapy. This is the context. And apart from that, the institution, Drug Standard Control Organization, granted market authorization for next CAR 19, which is nothing but India's first indigenously developed CAR T-cell therapy. So this is the context of this article. From this context, we have to know about what does mean by T-cells, and also we have to know about what is mean by CAR T-cell therapy, and also we have to know about the next CAR 19. Coming to the first segments, what are T-cells? T-cells are also called as T lymphocytes, which is a part of white blood cells, and it is a part of body's immune system. So part of body's immune system. The purpose of the T-cell is to fight against the germs, so that it protects the body from diseases. So this is about the purpose, and also we have to know about the area of production, and finally we have to know about the types. So production, these T cells are produced in the bone marrow, and it get matured in the thymus gland, right? And when it comes to the types, we are having 3 different types: helper T cells, cytotoxic T cells, and T regulatory cells. The name itself is giving the idea about the function. Helper, coordinating the immune response. So helping, coordinating. Yes, we can relate. Cytotoxin, toxin, we can relate it to destroying the viruses and the foreign particles. So this is also we can able to relate. And finally, T regulatory cells, it is vital for maintaining and regulating. So regulating the immune response. In this aspect, it will prevent the autoimmunity. So 3 different types of T cells. Moving forward, we have to know about CAR T-cell therapy. So CAR T-cell therapy is a cancer immunotherapy. So immunotherapy, chemotherapy. Chemo means administering the chemicals to treat cancer. Immuno means inducing the immune system to treat cancer. That is why it is named as immunotherapy, right? That uses genetically modified T cells. Here we are using genetically modified T cells that are immune cells to treat the cancer. This is the idea behind the CAR T cells. So when it comes to the process, first we'll extract the T cells from the patients, removing a patient's T cells and modifying them in the laboratory to produce a special cell called chimeric antigen receptor T cells, that is CAR T cells, right? We are extracting the T cells and we are modifying it in the laboratory and making it as genetically modified CAR T cells. Then we'll culture the T cells and then we'll administer back those genetically modified T cells into the patient's body through the bloodstream. So this is the process. So here it is very important, few things we have to consider. One thing is personalized treatment. First dimension is personalized treatment. Yes, we are getting T cells from the patients itself. So it is the first step for the personalized treatment. And also genetical modification is there. We are using genetical engineering technology for the cancer treatment. So genetical modification, and most important aspect is precision. It targets the correct cancerous cells and it destroys the cancer cells. The precision is more, right? So precision. So these are the three areas which we have to highlight when it comes to the significance. So personalized treatment is possible and it is using the genetically modified T cells and the precision is very high, right? Now we have to know about the applications. Currently, the United States FDA approved to treat leukemia, lymphoma and multiple myeloma. So as of now, this CAR T cell therapy is used to treat these three diseases. But there are some problems. We are also having the problem of possible side effects. So possibility of cytokine release syndrome. So because of this syndrome, there is a possibility of widespread activation of immune system that can damage the normal body cells. And also, there is a possibility of neurological symptoms such as severe confusion, seizures, and speech impairment. So these are some of the possible side effects. So the research is going on to improve or to reduce these side effects, right? This is about the CAR T cell therapy. So now we have to know about next CAR-19. So direct UPSC prelims question is possible from this topic. So it is developed by a company called ImmuneAct and it is incubated by IIT Bombay. So here it will target the cancer cells which is having the CD19 protein. So this CD19 protein acts as the diagnosis tool for this CAR T cell to identify the cancerous cells to attack the cancerous cells, right? In this aspect, it is treating the cancer and this particular therapy is recommended for treating basal lymphoma. So next we have an article related to the defense sector. So exam point of view, we are going to discuss three aspects: the institution, chief of defense staff, and the counter space capabilities, and also the government measure, that is mission Def Space 2022. So here we are going to discuss only the prelims point of view. We can expect some direct questions in the upcoming examination. Coming to the context, recently the Chief of Defense Staff in a seminar requested the industries to develop the counter space capabilities. Yes, the India's performance, India's share of space economy in the globe is very high and also it is increasing day by day, right? So India have to protect its space assets. So we have to improve our capabilities to protect our space assets. So that is the demand put forward by the Chief of Defense Staffs. So from this context, we are going to discuss the institutions and the government measures. So coming to the first aspect, Chief of Defence Staff. This institution was recommended by the Kargil Review Committee and later by the Naresh Chandra Committee. The Kargil Review Committee 2001 is very important when it comes to the defence reforms. Whenever we are writing the answer related to the defence reform, we have to quote the recommendations of Kargil Review Committee. It is comprehensive in nature, so it is very important for the exam point of view. And after the recommendation 2001, in 2002, the Integrated Defence Staff and another institution was created on similar note, and this is the precursor for the Chief of Defence Staff. Later, as per the Naresh Chandra Committee, this Chief of Defence Staff institution was created and General Bipin Rawat became the first CDS. Coming to the functions, CDS acts as an operational synergy between the different departments, military, Air Force and Navy. So it is operated in the siloed fashion. So we created an institution to create an operational synergy, because in many occasions in the history, the siloed operation led to the failure of battles, right? Because in this aspect, this operational synergy is very important and this institution is very significant. And apart from that, when it comes to the advocacy to the political institutions, this CDS acts as a single point advisory to the defense minister. So these are the two important functions when it comes to the CDS. And when it comes to the operational command, CDS doesn't have any operational command to any of these three armed forces, because operational command needs expertise in that particular field. So this is about the institution. So now we have to know about the space economy and India's position, most importantly. So there are many players with superpowers in the space domain. Around more than 90 countries are having the space related assets, and major powers such as United States, Russia, China, Japan, India are some of the major powers in the space domain, right? So by 2040, the global space market will be somewhere around $1 trillion. It is huge, which means the growth possibilities and economic possibilities will be very high in the space sector. So India also have to find its comfortable place in the space sector. India is aspiring, and also India is working rigorously to represent its place in the space economy, right? India aimed to capture 9% of the global space industry by 2030, and it wanted to achieve $40 billion space economy by 2040. Yes, we are having the timelines, targeted approaches there. India's aspirations are clear. What will be the position by 2030? What is the aspirations for the 2040? Everything is clear, right? So now we have to know about the India's efforts and positions. As of now, the value is somewhere around $8.4 billion. So $8.4 billion to $40 billion. So this is the aspiration, right? So from 2014, the number of startups in the defense space sector is only 1. Now it is 204. So the government is actively increasing the investments in supporting or in facilitating the startups in the defense space sector, right? So as of now in 2023, the government committed for $123 million for the space related startups, and also it is actively helping the private sector industry by giving these seed fund schemes and also through the technology transfers. Yes, government is actively taking efforts to place itself in the space economy, right? But now there is a concern, like the space assets in the near future for India will increase, but we should have the capacity to protect those assets, right? India is the 4th country to have the anti-satellite capabilities. We are having the Mission Shakti program, anti-satellite weapon, and also in 2019, India successfully tested its first attempt to shoot a satellite in the low Earth orbit. Right? So now India became the fourth country to have such capability. So apart from that, India is also taking some other steps in the defense sector and also especially in the defense space sector. We are having the Innovation for Defense Excellence initiative. It was started in 2018 to modernize the defense industry by bringing the innovation and research and development. Right? Here they are promoting the MSMEs, startups and academies. So here they are facilitating or helping the entire stakeholders of this particular sector and also supporting by providing fund and also the research and development support. So this initiative was managed by the Defense Innovation Organization. So it is the larger initiative to modernize the defense sector. So within that we are having a sub-component called Mission Dev Space 2022. So in that the innovation, the promotion of innovation specific for the space domain will be encouraged through the industry's participation. So 3 initiatives: Mission Shakti, it is the anti-satellite weapon, and also innovation related projects such as Innovation for Defense Excellence Initiative and Mission Dev Space 2022. Now let's try some prelims practice questions. Coming to the first question, consider the following statements. The production gap report was first launched during 2015. No, it is wrong. It is launched during 2019. So first statement is wrong. Second statement, it tracks the discrepancy between the government's planned fossil fuel production and the global production level consistent with limiting the warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius to 2 degrees Celsius. Yes, the statement is logically following. So second statement is correct. So here we want to find the correct statements. So first one is wrong, second one is right. So we are going with the option B, 2 only. Yes, answer B is right. Moving to the second question, consider the following statements regarding the defense space sector and India's capabilities. Only 3 countries, India, US, Russia, have acquired the capability of space warfare so far. No. Apart from that, China is also having such capabilities. So first statement is wrong. Second statement, Mission Shakti and IDEX initiative are related to space defense. Yes, this statement is correct. So here also we want to find the correct statements. So we are going with the option B, 2 only. Yes, option B is right. So coming to the third question, consider the following statements regarding to the CAR T-cell therapy. This therapy could be used to treat cancer cells by stimulating the immune response. Yes, it is right. That's why it is named as immunotherapy. First statement is right. There is no side effects observed due to this therapy. No, there are side effects. There is a possibility that having severe neurological condition is possible. The possibility of affecting the normal cells is also possible. So side effects are there, right? So second statement is wrong. So we are going with the option 1 only. So that is option B. Yes, option B is right. So coming to the fourth question, consider the following statements about the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act 2003. It sets target of 60% debt to GDP ratio to center and 40% debt to GDP ratio to the states. No, it is wrong. So overall the limit is 60%. Within that, 40% is for center and 20% is for state. So both statement 1 and statement 2 are wrong. Third statement, it provides space to exceed the debt limits set as target during the time of urgency like pandemic for instance. Yes, the statement is right. So we are going with the option only 1 because only one statement is correct. Yes, option A is right. Moving to the last question, choose the correct statement that correctly explains effective capital expenditure. It is a sum of total of capital expenditure. No, it is not comprehensive. The sum total of capital expenditure minus grants for creation of capital assets. No, that is also wrong. The sum total of capital expenditure plus grants for creation of capital assets. Yes, this is right. So this is what we call it as effective capital expenditure. So this is also an informative based question. Yes, option C is right. So now let's try one mains practice question. Assess the implications, 1, of recent stringent enforcement of FCRA acts on the functioning of NGOs in India, and discuss the balance between the regulatory oversight and the operational freedom of these organizations within the framework of fiscal responsibility and national interest. It's a two-part question. We have to give equal importance to both the parts, right? So here we can start with the recent incidents of license cancellation under FCRA Act. We can mention some incidences, and also we have to mention about the significance of having such act. That can be the possible introduction. And in the body part, start with the implications. So analyze the implications of having cancellation of such licenses. The first aspect is that, so NGOs are the prime entities which are working for the humanitarian assistance. They are effectively working for the social sector development. So they wanted to bridge the gap between the government measures and the welfare needs. So if we are cancelling the license of such institutions, which means we are going or making counterproductive steps against the national development. This is one significant impact. And apart from that, there is a possibility that such instance of cancellation of licenses will create dissent against the government. And also, it will affect the operational freedom of such institutions. So this is about the implications on the negative note. And also, we have to know that these regulatory mechanisms or stringent enforcement of law is very much needed to ensure the national interest. There is a possibility of misuse of fund, and also there is a possibility of influencing such institutions from the foreign nations. For the sake of national interest, we have to prohibit these two. And also, we want to ensure the financial accountability of such institutions. For those reasons, as a positive note, such strong enforcement is very much needed. So we can quote all those things from the implications point of view, and also the need for ensuring the balance. And in the concluding part, we have to mention that so India is in need of nuanced approach to tackle or to regulate the foreign contributions, and within that we have to ensure the transparency. So reasons for cancellations and the working mechanism has to be transparent in nature, and also we have to reduce the ambiguities by creating the proper rules and guidelines. So that's the end of the session. Do like, share and comment the video, and don't forget to subscribe our channel. Thank you.